Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Over on my right, over here on the railing, there are speaker cards and appeal cards. If you disagree with any decision this commission makes, you're welcome to fill out one of the appeal cards, and your appeal will be heard by the council. Phones and pagers, please put them on vibrate or turn them off. When speaking, each side will have 10 minutes initially with a 5-minute rebuttal. And please do not stay in here or out in the lobby to discuss your case as the sound comes back into the chambers here. Please rise for invocation by Mr. Randolph and pledge by Ms. Casabon.
Gracious Father, once again, we come to you with bowed down heads, but lift his heart to say thank you for all the blessings you bestowed on our lives. We thank you for your weather, Lord. We thank you for everything that you've granted unto us. And we thank you for this commission and the citizens and the parish council that we serve. And all these blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Ms. Casabon. All right, in the commissioner's package, you had the minutes from the September 2nd meeting. Are there any corrections that need to be made? I'll accept the motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Randolph, seconded by Mr. Davis. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Staff, we have any cases that need to be postponed?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I don't think
Mr. Hines?
Mr. Hines, yeah,
Shows
it's
him
a-
up. Okay, the lights are off. All right, fair enough.
Lauren Mack. This is gonna hit clear.
What have we got now?
He didn't think it worked. His light must not be working.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, first item is zoning case 14-09-080. Existing zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Proposed zoning is I2 Industrial District. It's a .5770 acre. The petitioner is Vincent Hebert. That's not right. Owner is Vincent Hebert. Parcel located on the north side of Ben Thomas Road, west of US Highway 11, being 37407 Ben Thomas Road, Slide L, Ward 9, District 14. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. Staff does not have any objection to the request, considering that the site is currently developed with an office warehouse and abutting I-2 industrial on the west side. At this time, staff would like to recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, and do you wish to speak on this case?
Yes.
Okay, please come to the mic and state your name.
My name is Greg Luckett.
Pardon?
No, Greg Luckett, and I'm Vice President of North Slidell Homeowners Association. And what we had decided to oppose, industrial for that area at this time. So this, we're against it at this point.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right.
Did you fill out a speaker card?
Yes, I have one here.
Okay, turn it into staff for me. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Fine.
My name's Vince Niebuyer. First, I want to thank you guys for giving me the extension to this week. The previous appointment was delayed because I was stuck in an airport out of town and didn't know who to call at 5 o'clock to try to get here on time. So thank you for that. The request for rezoning is to rezone this property back to what it was originally zoned for in its original state. Unbeknown to me, it was rezoned after the massive restructure in the Slidell area. And it's been operating as an industrial facility, as a hydraulic repair shop for cranes, offshore cranes. Those tenants had left the building, and I recently went in there to clean it up and to release it, and was notified that it was rezoned to a different zone. So that was the purpose for asking to get this building rezoned back to its original state.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? All right, we'll go into the rebuttal side of it now. You've heard Mr. Ebert speak. Do you wish to have any rebuttal to what he said? What was the gentleman's name?
Mr. Lockett.
Mr. Lockett?
Not this time.
Okay, this is, now I'm gonna close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission in just a minute.
Well, we as the members of North Slidell Homeowners Association, what we decided what it is that we didn't want, we got the residents there, they didn't want industrial too close to where they live at. So basically, at one time, there was a machine shop, which is closed now. A crane shop is there, and it's been closed. So the thing is that we just decided to keep it commercial/residential. Yeah, that's what we want, prefer other than industrial. That's what that's really what our disagreement is that we don't want to turn into an industrial area.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just one more comment. Since the tenants moved out of that building, made every effort to follow the leadership, the guidance of the zoning committee, not the committee, but the zoning teams, and met with T.J. Smith, who is the councilman, I guess, for the area, met with the homeowner president, Jimmy, and really there's no opposition from the homeowners association. The only concern they had was heavy industrial. I think there's a misunderstanding of what I-2 is opposed to I-1 or I-3. And all the conversations I've had with both those individuals indicated that there has been no opposition to the I-2 zoning. In addition to that, I've tried to be a steward of the community and have agreed to support them in their efforts to clean up that area. And I've donated 2 mobile trailers that were on the property from the to the homeowners that are in the area. One for the constituents of a congregation around the corner, and the other for a snowball stand for the children for them to try to develop a snowball stand for income for a park that they're developing in the area. So I think that there's no intention to degrade the territory. I mean, it behooves me for that to be a much cleaner and more efficient area. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna close the floor to the public. We've had the initial comments and rebuttal. I'll bring it back to the commission. Mr. Randolph.
Mr. Ebire. Yes, sir.
Bring your mic down, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Your request recommendation or the recommendation from the staff, which I appreciate, is to approve this from highway commercial to industrial. You have .5770 acres. There is a building there. My question is, how long has that building been vacant?
Approximately 4 months.
4 months. And prior to the vacancy, what was being operated there?
It was a offshore industrial crane repair facility.
And how long ago was that?
4 months ago.
4 months ago. Okay. You were able to operate the 4 crane operation. They were functioning as in highway commercial. What compelling reason do you want to change it from that to industrial?
To be honest with you, I don't think they were operating within the guidelines of the zoning at the time.
Okay.
I see Helen shaking her head that they were a non-conforming use.
If I'm not mistaken, they never applied for their occupational license. So without, I'm sure that, he had a lease between, with the tenant, but since there was no occupational license, then they were not operating legally.
Yeah, I acquired the property when they were already tenants. So I wasn't aware of what they had done, what they hadn't done. Matter of fact, the only notice that I got when they were vacating the building was a letter. Still have not seen the guy who was leasing it. Left, all kinds of stuff that required me to get cleaned up. And I'm in the process of doing that, removing those trailers, regrading the property, doing some landscaping in the front, and all with the assistance and support of the community today.
Okay. I want to follow up, and just for my clarification, from an HC, highway commercial, to industrial, they were operating without an occupational license, and they were operating under HC, highway commercial. What use will you have for it to change from that to industrial in an area that's a half an acre?
Well, I'm new at this, okay? By no means do
Well,
I
I am
understand this
too, so-
process.
so-
I don't understand the process, so I really took a common sense approach to bringing this to you guys. But the original zoning, I believe that they were within spec of what they were operating, under. When they rezoned, I think they fell outside the guidelines of the zoning classification that they had. So I just don't, and it might have been purposely done not to notify the property owner at the time that it was being rezoned for whatever reasons they had, but I think originally they were operating within jurisdiction of the zone, and then when it got rezoned after Katrina, because they were there for approximately 15 years.
So Ron, at that time, it was an M1 zoning, which they were in compliance. Am I correct there, Helen?
Well, if they were there for 15 years, they could have been in compliance at the time. I can't confirm that.
Okay, all right. So they were in compliance up until the time of the comprehensive rezoning, and then it went to HC2, and they were an existing business, so they were kind of grandfathered in at that point and could continue to operate really forever, as long as they stayed there. But now they vacated the property, and so the gentleman's trying to get back to an industrial classification. I'm not sure that I-2 would necessarily be correct, because an M1 would generally fall in the I-1 category, so.
Go ahead, Dave, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I can see upgrading, Mr. Your last name again?
E-buyer.
E-buyer. I can see an upgrade, but to an I-2 is pretty intense, especially for that area. Ben Thomas Road is a very narrow street. There are no sidewalks, ditches on both sides. Residential is not even 100 feet, 150 feet from this already. So would you consider an I-1?
If I could refer you to the map, the page on the west side of the property
Yep.
is already zoned I-2. If the concern from me would be that, or to you, that the I-2 was a little aggressive, then it's already there.
Oh, it's coming up, but that's okay. I understand that, but that's going to be discussed too. But
I'm talking about the property that we're talking about.
this property right here, right?
I can't.
No, it's right to the west of where HC2 is.
West, over here, west of it, right?
Yeah.
Does he own the or the I-2 is right next to the HC2 that you are wanting to
Yes, ma'am.
rezone? Do you own that I-2?
No, ma'am. He was supposed to try to attend Miro, and it's a machine shop. It's a full-fledged machine shop, and basically performing some of the same functions that are performed, that were being performed in the previous operation in the building next door to him.
I didn't mean to jump in.
Anything else, Ron?
No, sir.
Okay, Ms. Casabon?
I'm sorry for jumping in, but I have a concern with such a large piece of, it's HC2 now. You don't own the one next door. In other words, that this property makes a pretty large piece of I-2, I feel, in this particular area, to have it rezoned. Or you could look at it another way, that it is large enough. How large a building could we put on that, Helen, or the business?
The building
The
is
building
already
exists.
It's already in existence?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have a building here that was already industrial. And it was just changed. So we're just looking at the 4 months. Okay. So this one's already I-2. All right. I just wanted to see if he owned that other property. If the
wish I
building's
did.
existing and it's already there and it has been in operation, we're not adding anything new to the property, just bringing it up to, actually what's in that particular area, I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the I-2 zoning. Mr. Davis?
A question for Helen. The existing building that's on this HC2 property, does that meet I-1 qualification? The size of the building?
It could.
Well, if it could, and the previous zoning for this site was M1 light industrial anyway, why don't we just request the gentleman to go ahead and change his zoning from I-2 to I-1, and it would satisfy everything we need?
I mean, I don't know if he's looked at the uses listed under I-1, it's a
You
little bit.
understand, you did have
more-
M1 zoning before.
Yes,
You
sir.
never did have I-2. And to be able to have a transition from I-2 to I-1 and then have a residential, it makes a lot more sense that way, and you just said earlier before about making sense.
Yes, sir. My only concern there is, again, I'm new at this. I looked at the permitted use for I-1, and convenience stores, drive-in restaurants, commercial kennels, no? Am I on the wrong one? Oh, that's HC2, I'm sorry. Let me get up to it, I'm sorry. Back to the front. Oh, I'm sorry. Hit the wrong one. Oh, God. Yeah, here it is. I'm sorry, apologize for that. Radio and television studios, which it's not gonna be. Potentially a body shop, outdoor storage yards, welding shop, recreational facility, portable storage, or an outdoor display manufacturing place. I mean, it limits the structure of the building and the design of the building to what is really the purpose of it. And the purpose of it is, initially when I purchased the building, my goal was to put a gear cutting facility in there, and it was basically what's happening next door. It was going to be an industrial gear cutting facility for manufacturing of industrial gearboxes and open gearing. And under I-1, that wouldn't be an option. You couldn't put a fabrication shop in there for somebody to manufacture something for the oil field. And that in that area, in that sector, what interested me about it was the amount of industry that caters to the oil and gas industry. And not having the ability to do those type of things, I think, would limit the opportunity to lease the building and for it to be a solid investment. which is too late for that worry.
Anything else, Jimmy?
No, I think the previous I-1 zoning is probably correct. I know when we rezoned the whole parish, and we said HC2 there, and you have no ambitions of a highway commercial 2 at that property.
I have no ambitions for a highly commercial 3 at that property. Some of the fabrication, potentially, I mean, I don't know what you call highly.
No, highway
industrial.
commercial 2 is what it's currently zoned. It is
Oh,
currently.
highway commercial, I'm sorry.
Right, it's currently zoned highway commercial 2. Oh, highway commercial, I-3? Absolutely not.
Right, and
But
I understand
even
that.
at I-2, it could be seen as a large I-2 industrial site since you have I-2 directly next to you. And that's the
Correct.
concerns with the individuals that were talking before. And since you're asking this board to go from a previous M1 to an I-2, this seems like a very big increase to me personally. That's all I have to say.
And I understand. I understand.
Okay, Mr. Willie?
Helen, his building and his intended use, would that fall under I-1, or does it need to be an I-2?
According to what he just said, he would need an I-2.
For the gear cutting, that'd be I-2? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hines? Mark? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Todd?
I just want to make a last comment. Considering that what the uses of the building was prior, and in fact immediately to the west is an I-2, I recommend that we support it.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second for the I-2. Please vote. Motion carries 6-2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next case, item 2 is zoning case 14-09-081. Existing zoning is A4, single-family residential. Proposed zoning is I2 industrial district. It's .6060 acres. Petitioners, Vincent Ebert. Owners, Vincent Ebert. Parcel located on the south side of Ben Thomas Road, west of US Highway 11, Ward 9, District 14. Staff?
The 2025 Future Land Use Plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. Staff is not completely opposed to the request, however, considering the presence of office warehouses on the north and east sides. However, an I-1 industrial zoning may be more appropriate for this site. Note that the area was zoned M1 previous to the comprehensive rezoning. Staff recommends request for I-2 designation be denied.
Thank you. Mr. Ebert?
Yes, sir. I guess the whole intent here was to have both of them zoned light because they complement each other. The size of the building on the existing property that was just zoned I-2 doesn't lend itself to have the materials that are needed to be supported in the manufacturing process across the street. For lack of better terms, a lay-down yard, supply yard to keep those type of materials, and potentially in the gearing industry, it's a pretty engineered product and it's a clean process. They may have to have a clean room for assembly or to pass qualifications to be accepted into manufacturing or an oil and gas business. So the intent here is to, because it's right across the street and used to support the other operation, my hope would be that they would both be zoned I-2 and so they could work in conjunction with each other.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this going to I-2? All right, anyone wish to, yes, sir, come forward?
Again,
There's a gentleman coming up that I'd recognize.
oh, that's Ms.
Let him come up
Oh,
and then
that's
I'll
fine. Come on.
recognize you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Mr. Miro. He has the machine shop right next door, and we had met with Mr. Miller. The thing that we was concerned about is that when we started opening up these industrial HC2s, is that now you open up to one, then now someone else will come in and buy a property and say, okay, well, you done it for Mr. Eber. And next thing you know, you got an industrial right in the back door of these people that homes. And where I live at, most of the folks that live there has been there 50, 60 some years. They're there, they can't move. Okay, now you got an industrial building there, industrial shops, keeping up noise, and some of these folks are in their 70s and 80 years old. So what do? Okay, and that's why I'm opposing it. That's why the residents was opposed. They're opposing. It's that they don't want it coming into their backyard. Okay, it's already there. So when we open up these here can of worms, and now it becomes a problem. We don't vote it in, so guess what? We have to deal with it. So that's why the residents there was opposed to opening up an AC2 industrial, because now, you know, we had met with Mr. Miro. We understood his situation, his machine shop. We understood, personally, I don't know Eber's, what his intentions are, but what happens is that, what happens next Eber that comes on and say, okay, you did it for Mr. Miro, now you did it for Mr. Eber, now why you can't do it for me? So now, here we got industrial in their backyards, and they have to, these people got to live there, and you got to listen to it every day. And they can't move, you know, and most everybody in my area where I live at is, you know, income, medium, low income, okay? They can't move out of the area. And then when you look at their property value, they can't sell and get out of there and go somewhere else and pick up. So that's what they was opposing it. That's what we are concerned about. We're not, it's that where they are, it's fine. But what happens to the next guy that come along and say, you know what? You did it for Eber, you done it for Mr. Now, there's a problem, you know. So that's why the Homeowners Association was concerned about opening up an industrial area, okay? So that's my opposition.
Okay, thank you.
You need another card?
Yes, sir. And if you hadn't filled out a speaker card, please do so.
I didn't fill out. You want me to talk first or fill
Yeah,
out?
you can go ahead and speak.
My name is Miro Coutura. I own the building next to the Mr. Wins. And I just don't see any problem with rezoning because he wants to open machine shop. It just because they need that zoning for that type of work. It's not like he's gonna make more noise. Machine shop been there for 30 years almost. I don't see it. I don't get why they wouldn't be approved. I tried with the C2.
Excuse me, are you talking about the right case now?
Yes, I did.
We're talking about the case that's south of the road now, not the case that we just approved for I-2 zoning on the north next to yours.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
We approved.
Thank you,
I'm
Jim.
sorry, I was talking the different one, yes. I thought you were
This is
talking
one
about the same
across
building.
street now.
Yeah.
We approved.
Well, I'm next to him, I just don't have a problem with the rezoning the other section either. That's all.
Okay, so you're speaking in favor of the zoning going to I-2 on this piece of property across the street.
All right, he's gonna use it in
Okay.
conjunction with the other one.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Fill out a speaker card, please. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak either for or against? I'll close the floor. Yes, sir.
Guess I'd like to make one more comment. I mean, you know, I understand the concerns of the homeowners, and that was the purpose for me to meet with Jimmy and TJ and understand what their concerns were. You know, the property where it sits today, it's very definitive where that line is for an industrial sector. I mean, if it was owned I-2. And according to TJ and Jimmy, for the betterment of the area, that they are actually looking and meeting actually tomorrow to discuss the strategy on how to, because of the access from I-12, how to turn that sector into a industrial corridor, or industrial business park for that matter. Because of the limited land that I have across the street, it absolutely is almost imperative for somebody to not only have that additional property for use, but to have it for use that fits within a I-2 zone. So, again, I think the conception of, the perception of a industrial facility, I-2 zoning, has been blown up and taken out of content. If they really understood what the I-2 zone was, I don't think they'd be in much opposition of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Luck, I believe, do you have any rebuttal?
Okay. Yesterday, me, and TJ, and Jimmy Strickland, we met with the council, and we did kind of a tour of North Slidell and things to come and what they're trying to do in terms of revitalization to that area. There's some things that we have that we already considered what's going to be industrial, what we're looking at, what to be industrial and what is to be commercial, and how we can work together in compliance with residential, industrial, and commercial. That's what the concern is. We wanted to table this to a later date because we're in a process, because we're trying to see what best fits that area, what best fits Slidell. Okay, what is the best fit? It's still on the table what their plans are. Plans that they're looking in terms of restructuring the infrastructure, in terms of Highway 11, in terms of changing the dynamics in power drive, as opposed to now that they have Textron just back there. Okay, how are we going to work with Textron? We met with them a couple months ago, and Textron has some good ideas on what they plan to do for that area. They're getting ready to put what they call a test track. Okay, along at the same time, the parish is working in terms where they have going to do a retention pond back there, and then how can we work this into the area that best fits the community and the people of Slidell? So what the thing is that what we want to do is table this until a later date as to see geographically how it's going to fit all parties. That's what we had. That's what the concern was. We would prefer not to vote this and say, okay, because now you got Ben Thomas Road. Ben Thomas Road right now have turned into a commercial. They got 18-wheelers running down that road there. That road is not designed for these big wheel vehicles, okay? Eventually, I'm watching the size of the road now starting to cave in. All this got to be changed. So now you're bringing in an industrial shop. How is that going to change? How that's going to fit into the community? You know, have you met with the Parish Council? Have they okayed it? So this is what that's what our concerns are. You know, I think, I don't want us to jump the gun. I lived in Houston for 18 years, and then I remember when I first got there, they didn't have a planning commission, and then people just went out there just like cowboys and built wherever they wanted to. I think this is 2014, and we're more intelligent now. I think we need to look what's best fit for St. Tammany Parish, okay? And we don't need to jump the gun and say, okay, you come on in, let's us do this here and think this through and just see what's the best fit for Slidell and St. Tammany. That was our concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Randolph.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation from the staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the staff recommendation of I-2. Ms. Casabon?
No. Staff recommendation to
I'm
deny.
sorry.
The staff
To
is
deny, I'm
recommending to
sorry.
deny. It's a motion to deny. I concur. Next door to, it's the one across the street, it was totally different. He's gonna have to work something out. And And I think by denying it, if something can be worked out before the next council meeting, the councilman can work with the people, but it's too close to the residential. I concur.
Okay, so
We have a motion and a
we
second.
have a motion and a second, to deny zoning case 14-09-081. Jimmy?
Mr. Vincent?
Yes, sir.
I believe, in fairness to you, even though you were just not granted, even though this board granted you an I-2 zoning on the northern side of Ben Tennis Road, except for myself and Mr. Randolph's vote, on this side, the property would be I-2, but you'd have 176 frontage on the residential side, where before, on the north side, you had 100 foot on the back. So if you look at that kind of stuff, it really almost another one of those common sense things. Why should we grant this I-2? And I think just in all fairness, I think that's some of the reasons why we're looking at this. You have much more coverage, much more square footage coverage on the A4 side on this southern part. I
Yeah.
understand about your process about getting somebody in there in the northern part, and it'd be nice to be able to transfer stuff on the other side, but it is not this board's responsibility to help you define exactly how much money you can make from a piece of property. Do you
Well,
understand that?
Yes, sir, I do. And I don't think it's, and these guys brought up a great point. I mean, this isn't the end of the industrial sector on this road.
That's correct.
I mean, there's
And it could-
multiple facilities, I didn't even bring it up, down the road that go way past the neighborhood with the 18-wheelers and other concerns. And according to Jimmy and TJ, the funding's there for them to improve that road to accept that industrial sector by taking the culverts out and filling in and doing all this other stuff.
Right.
It's not about necessarily the money. It's about the opening the gap or the opportunity for renters to occupy the building and be taxpayers to St. Tammany.
And I agree, and if this commission makes a motion to deny it, and it is denied, you can always go to the council with it and try to overrule it.
You can appeal it to the council.
Do you understand that?
I thought you guys were the council.
Oh, no.
We're the planning commission.
No,
I'm
no,
kidding.
no,
I'm
no,
teasing.
not at $50
We
a
the
meeting.
JV team.
Mr. Randolph?
I wouldn't have it for twice your money.
Mr.
Ron,
Ebeyer, I'm going to also, in fairness to you, that you and Mr. Luckett and TJ get together again, because there seemed to be a conflict in conversations.
No question.
And what's being said. So I just want to make that offer as well.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny zoning case 14-09-081. Please vote.
And to move it to an IS1 or deny IS2?
Hang on just a minute. Okay, motion carries to deny, 8-0. Yes, sir, what was your question?
I think the recommendation was to move from an IS2 to an IS1.
No, it was A4.
I mean, an I1.
A4 to I2, okay? This is a piece of property across the street.
Yes, sir, I'm familiar.
So,
Mr. Doherty, staff recommended I-1. We had a sentence saying we had no objection to I-1. So he was asking the possibility of downzoning to his request to I-1.
Understood, but the petitioner asked for I-2. We debated that, and it was denied. So if he wants to make another petition for I-1, that's another meeting.
or he, in his appeal to the council, they can discuss this and they may grant you an I-1 at the council level, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, item 3, zoning case 14-10-086, existing zonings A1 Suburban District and Rural Overlay, RO, proposed zoning Public Facility, and RO. It's 1.1 acres, the petitioner is Rob Barnett, the owner is Joanne Thompson, parcel located on the north side of Louisiana 1078, west of Church Road, east of J&B Drive, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The 2025 calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. The requested zoning change to PF1 does not meet the objective of the 2025 future land use plan. However, the purpose of the PF1 zoning is to provide for the location of governmental and other institutional uses to the public. Considering the purpose of the PF1 zoning and the nature of the permitted use, staff does not have any objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Barnett?
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. I'm here this evening on behalf of Fire District 12. The fire chief is here, Darrell Galat. The reason for this rezoning request is to construct a fire station in this area.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this? Do we have anyone that wishes to speak against on this? All right, I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Page 2, item 4, zoning case 14-10-087, existing zoning is A1 Suburban District, proposed zoning is CB1 Community-Based Facility District. It's 7.56 acres. The petitioner is Patrick Darby. Owner is Ridgewood Investments LLC / Patrick Darby. Parcel located on the west of Howes Beach Road, south of Spartan Drive, Ward 9, District 12. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the site to be developed as a planned district, including single-family residences and conservation area. The requested zoning change to CB1 does not meet the 2025 future land use plan. However, the purpose of the CB1 zoning is to provide for the location of public and quasi-public uses within close proximity to residential districts. Considering the location of the site, the purpose of the CB1 zoning, and the nature of permitted uses, staff does not have any objections to the request. Note the site is proposed to be developed as a recreational ballpark. Staff recommends request to CB1 designation be approved.
Thank you. Mr. Darby in the audience? Yes, sir. You might want to come to the mic and see if any of the commissioners have any comments. Jimmy?
Yes. I think the idea of having the community-based facilities around the residential area is a good idea. Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis, a second by Mr. Randolph to approve. Did any of the commissioners have any comments or questions to Mr. Darby? All right.
I just want to make sure there's no one in opposition. I don't know if we asked if there was anybody in opposition in the audience.
I don't remember if I did or not. Is there anyone here in opposition to this? Don't see anyone? Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve going to the CB1 zoning recommendation. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, zoning case 14-10-088. Existing zonings A5, two-family residential district and a CB1 community-based facility. Proposed zonings NC1 professional office district. It's 0.18 acres. The petitioner G. David Caraway. Owners Carl Eberts. Parcel located at the end of 11th Street, north of Marquette Street, west of 10th Street, being Lot 5B, Square 10, Chinchuba Subdivision, Ward 4, District 4. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff feels that there is no compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the site is abutting A4 and A5 residential zoning districts on the north and east sides. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Thank you. Mr. Caraway or Mr.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. On the survey, I had met with
Please state your name.
Oh, David Caraway, and I consult for Mr. Carl Eberts. He's been ill, so I've been handling this for him. I had met several times with both Helen and Regan, and I thank y'all for going through the process with me because this was new to me. Mr. Eberts owns all of the property to the north, to the south,
and to the east. The west, there's a canal, non-constructed street, 11th Street, and then Beauchene, which has a canal, then the fence, and then Beauchene. Mr. Ebert's plan, he built 4 condos on the residential. He fenced them in, and then the property was rezoned with 25 foot behind these condos to give a buffer. His idea, since you can't get to that land behind, it can't be developed unless you come across his commercial land, because 11th Street will not be constructed. Okay, the parish has no intention of constructing it. He wants to put it with his NC1 land, which is to the north, with the south, to the south of the commercial, of the residential he owns. He wants to add it to that, where if he ever does develop it, he could use it for parking or something else, so there isn't any parking right against the residential that he owns, the condos that he owns. Okay? And that's the gist of it.
All right, thank you. I need to get you to fill out a speaker card, please.
Oh, okay,
They're
even though
over
I'm
here.
on the,
Pardon?
even though I'm on the
Yeah.
sheet, okay.
All right, anyone wish to speak for this in the audience? Anyone wish to? I understand, yeah. Anyone wish to speak against? Okay, I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Mr. Caraway,
Yes, sir.
so there's no access at all going to this property?
It's a dirt road. The 11th Street dead ends right at the beginning of the NC1 property, which he could build a driveway into the NC1 and then have it go on across if he decided to use that area 5B for parking. Other than that, no, there's no access other than kids coming under the fence at Beauchene and, you know, traveling down the side of the road there. I mean, there's no street, dedicated street.
And the owner has no ambitions to go ahead and do anything with it now? He just
No,
wants to
right
rezone
now,
it
no, he's in ill health, and he's just an investor for that area. As you can see, he's made a pretty good commitment there. He's built 4 condos. He owns 2 across the street also. I was president of the Chinchuba Trace Association. I also met with Mr. Falconer. He came out in person. We went over the property, and I talked to him just last week, and he's for this proposal also. He met with me. He talked to residents. He's very active. I got to give it to him. I'm not from this area, so I was impressed with it.
Okay, well,
Jimmy?
you know, I'm gonna have to agree with the planning department in this. I mean, there's nothing that just compels me, especially for the fact that the property's not even gonna be used for anything yet.
Well,
just the way
I
I
mean,
feel.
he thinks that if he does decide to build, I mean, he's got a sign up there right now. If he does decide to build, he's trying to protect the residential there from people parking right against where the condos are, because that property line goes up 7 foot, 15 foot total from that. So he's trying to use the back area where there'd be a 25-foot buffer between the fence line and 5B property. He'd use that as parking if he decided to build.
Parking for who?
For the NC1. Because he owns the NC1 also. He owns the NC1 to the south of it.
So that 25-foot offset you have from the NC1, proposed NC1 to, let's say, lot 6A, 6A, 1A, 5A,
That's
2A.
all part of that property.
It's all part of that one
And it's
property.
wooded still, correct.
But there's 2 residents right off of 10th Street, correct? Those, excuse me, 4
4.
residents.
Yes, he owns all those.
So you're not asking that these lots zoned A5, 6A, 2A, 1A, 5A, 2A be zoned NC1 as well, right?
Absolutely not.
Those will remain A.
Yes, there's residences built on them, condos built on them.
Gotcha.
There's doubles built on them. And they're, all except for one is already leased out, rented out.
Yeah, it just doesn't grab me, that's all. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, any other questions, comments from the commissioners? I'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Motion by Mr. Davis to deny. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Randolph. Any further discussion? Now, this is a motion to deny. Please vote. Motion fails, 3-5. So we need to come back and, Mr. Richard.
I think it was a little bit misleading for us when we look at this map. You know, you turn it sideways, make sure you orient it correctly towards the north, especially when we're looking at that survey. Given that and knowing this area fairly well, I don't have a problem with this, and I move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Richard, a second by Mr. Willie. Mr. Hines? Okay. Any further discussion? Now, the motion on the floor is to approve. Please vote. Motion carries 6-2. Thank you. All right, next item. Next item, zoning case 14-10-089. Existing zoning is A1A Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A2 Suburban District. It's 19.72 acres. Petitioner is Bonnie A. Pale. Owner is Bonnie A. Pale. Parcel located on the east side of Downs Avenue, south of Low Davis Road, being 75140 Downs Avenue, Covington, Ward 10, District 6. Staff?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, it's been withdrawn. 89 has been withdrawn.
Pardon?
The case number 89, number 6, ZC 14-10-089 has been withdrawn.
All right.
Withdrawn.
Can you say that louder?
All right. So we go to item 7 then. Zoning case 14-010-090. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A1A Suburban District at 3.37 acres. Petitioner is Bruce Simpson. The owner is the estate of Joseph Daniel Pierre, care of Robert D. Pierre. Parcel located on the north side of Lee Settlement Road, west of Hay Hollow Road, east of Thomas Cyprian Road, being 11474 Lee Settlement Road, Folsom, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. Staff does not see any compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the site is surrounded by A1 zoned property. Staff recommends the request to A1A designation be denied.
Thank you. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Please state your name, and do we have a speaker card on Mr.
Okay, my name is Bruce Simpson. I'm an attorney in Kentwood. I do represent Robert Pierre, who's the administrator of this estate. The issue is pretty simple. We're not requesting a change in use. The problem is that this estate has 40 acres there, and there are 12 heirs. We have 11 of them want to sell, and one of them lives there. We're trying to accommodate him by cutting his proportionate share of the acreage out, which is the 3.37 acres, surrounding where he currently lives, and asking that you just approve this change in size of that one little parcel of this 40 acres into the A1A and approve the 3.7 acres. The remainder of the property will still say A1, and it's the intent of the administrator to sell that as one big parcel and let someone else worry about any future zoning of it. So the reason this is compelling, if you have the map, you see right behind this property, sometime in the past, there was a cell tower put on it. The heirs have considered accommodating this man by giving him the 5 acres. but it butts up to the cell tower on the back as it is. It butts on the east property line. It abuts the road. And if you were to take the 5 acres west, you would cut off most of the access to the back 40 acres. He's getting half the road frontage that it is. So it's just not good for the rest of the land to let him expand to the 5 acres. So the width of the land still complies with A1 of at least 300 feet. It's 328. A 50-foot setback, his residence is 100 feet off the road. So it complies with everything except that small difference variance in acreage. And that's what we're asking this change for.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this, either for or against? Okay, I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, you do want to speak then?
Go ahead.
Yes, this is, I am familiar with the area, and it is true that this house in this small portion, I'll make a motion to approve.
It's a very reasonable request.
it's-
I second the motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon, seconded by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion, Mr. Davis?
Yes, Mr. Simpson.
Yes.
Is the cellular tower still in use?
Yes, it is. They had an option to renew it, and they exercised that option about a year and a half ago.
Okay, and the only access to get to that cell tower is in the middle of this property?
That's right. It goes through this man's land, and he's aware of it. He's willing to take it with that burden on it. I mean, it's a designated right-of-way. It's not as if they just crossing his land. It's a designated right-of-way, and
So
he's aware
by
of it.
assigning this parcel to his ownership only, he doesn't have the right to shut these people off from getting to that piece
Does
of
not. They have a designated right-of-way to it that was in the original lease.
And because you don't want to extend the back property
We-
additionally
We don't want
because
to
of the cell
surround him
tower.
back there, you know?
So you couldn't even make like a little horseshoe design on both sides and give him, and grant him.
He's already got the road and one of the anchors for the cell tower on his land. To go back, he'd probably get another anchor or two on his land, you
Okay.
know?
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve zoning case 14-10-090. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Item 8, zoning case 14-10-091, existing zoning is A1 Suburban District with a manufactured housing overlay and a rural overlay. Proposed zoning is A2 Suburban District with a manufactured housing overlay and a rural overlay. It's 3.457 acres. This comes to us by council motion of H7, parcel located at the end of Singletary Road, south of Galloway Road, Ward 2, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with agricultural and residential uses. Staff sees no compelling reason to increase the density in the area, considering that it is surrounded by A1 suburban zoning on 3 sides. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Pamela King. I own this piece of property, and I need to have a piece cut out to put in my son's name.
Which has an existing trailer. Any
All right.
opposition?
I'm sorry, I was checking to see if we had a speaker card.
I have it right here.
Okay, if you'll turn it in to staff
Sure.
there, we'll get it up here. All right. What was your question or comment? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I own the 3.457 acres and would like to cut 1 acre out of that land so I'd be able to put that over into my son's name as his inheritance.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Not really.
All right. Is there anyone else in the audience that would wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, this has an existing trailer on it. Has given him already, just trying to get the legal, into his name. So I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon, seconded by Mr. Willie. Mr. Davis.
Yes, to the young lady that was up.
Yes, sir.
The mobile home overlay is on the entire 3.457 acres or just
No,
the 1
sir.
acre?
Just 1 acre.
So will we have to stipulate that in the, we'd have to stipulate that in the zoning?
The
just that
mobile
1
home,
acre?
the mobile home overlay and the rural overlay is already existing.
It's
Yeah, it's-
existing.
Oh,
The
okay.
request is
'Cause he
only
has
from
a trailer
A1
on.
to A2.
Okay, so you're saying the mobile home overlay already exists for the entire 3.4? Okay,
Right.
thanks.
Why are we going through all this motion then?
Well, it's got,
Because
it's changing
she
the
has
zoning.
over the 5 acres, and because she wants to take him because of what it's zoned there. So she has to go through this in order to cut out an acre to give to her son.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve zoning case 14-10-0, I'm sorry, wrong one. 14-10-091. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Zoning case 14-10-092, existing zoning is HC3 Commercial District. Proposed zoning is A4 Single Family Residential. It's 32.95 acres. Petitioner is the Parish Council, or comes to us through the Parish Council motion of 8-7. Parcel located on the west side of US 11, south of Pine Place, north of Johnny F. Smith Boulevard, Ward 8, District 14. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area, the site to be developed with residential uses, commercial uses, and as a conservation area. Staff feels that the current zoning of HC3 is appropriate, considering its location along Highway 11, and that it was a zone C1 neighborhood commercial district before the comprehensive rezoning. Moreover, it is abutting HC3 commercial north into the south, to the north and to the south, and I-2 industrial to the west. So at this time, staff would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Who is in the audience who wishes to speak? on-
Approval or denial? I'm sorry.
Denial.
Denial, I'm sorry, denial.
There's something in the air, I think. What's in that water? All right. Is anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this? Ms. Casabon?
I'm not in the audience. Do we have anybody here representing them?
No.
I'm gonna make a motion to table because I'm really confused and want to know why they
All right.
want to go
I
back
have-
to A.
I have a
blah,
motion by Ms.
4.
Casabon to postpone.
Yes, postpone.
Did I hear a second?
I'll second it, but I've got a comment. Why in the world would you want to do this to start with?
That's why I want to find out.
Mr. Chairman,
This is continuation.
this was introduced by the councilman. I don't
Right.
think there's anyone representing this particular parcel in question.
Right, okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone until next month's meeting. And, Ellen, would you get with, council staff and see who the owner and petitioner actually is, and see if we can have them at next month's meeting?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ron?
Before you vote, I'm very familiar with this area. Thank you. And the reason why they want to put this back to A4, because there are a number of single-family dwelling in that area. Yes, there is Johnny Smith on the south side of this area, going south of Highway 11. There's industrial further west in this area, but this immediate area is residential.
Okay, well, we've got a motion right now on the floor to postpone until next month's meeting,
Okay.
But
okay?
I've
And-
clarified my thing. I don't know. I'd like to know who owns it. I'd like to know, that, I don't want to know that I'm just rezoning something.
Well,
that-
I'm one of them.
I know. You want it back. But to, I don't see the petitioner. I don't know. If it's coming from council, I'd like a little more information.
I think,
Not that I don't disagree.
I would like to ask
No
you,
problem, let's vote.
no, I want to ask you
we've
one
got-
question. Hey, okay, is this a piece that backs up to Johnny Smith?
Johnny
on
Smith.
on the
up-
backside?
On the backside.
okay, we've got a motion and a second to postpone. Okay, and I allowed discussion when I really shouldn't have. Please vote. Motion carries to postpone. And Helen, you're gonna get with, council staff and see if we can get somebody here next month. Page 3, item 10, zoning case 14-10-093, existing zoning is HC3, proposed zoning is A8, multifamily residential district, it's 11 acres. This again comes to us by Parish Council motion of H7, parcel located on the west side of US 11, north of Pine Place, south of Hunter Street, Ward 8, District 14. Staff?
The site is currently developed with multifamily residential buildings and undeveloped land. The requested zonings to A8 would allow for the existing multifamily dwellings to remain and for future multifamily development at a maximum density of 1 unit per 1,500 square feet of property. Staff feels that there's no compelling reason to recommend approval, considering that it is located along Highway 11, and the site was rezoned from C1 to HC3 through the comprehensive rezoning. Moreover, the site is currently abutting HC3 on the north and south side, and the HC3 zoning allows for multifamily dwellings. So at this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience here to speak on this case? I think once again, since it came from council motion, we need to postpone.
Postpone. I make a
Okay.
motion to postpone.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Casabon to postpone, seconded by Mr. Randolph. Please vote. Item postponed, and again, Helen, would y'all get with, council staff? All right, item 11, zoning case 14-10-094. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A1 Suburban District and RO Rural Overlay. It's 3.22 acres. The petitioner's Nicholas Brenner. Owners John and Tina Warner. Parcel located on the north side of Ronald Reagan Highway, east of Gottschalk Road, west of Louisiana Highway 1077, Ward 1, District 3. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed as a planned district, including conservation and single-family residential uses. Staff does not object to the request and recommends the request to RO be denied. Approved.
It's contagious.
Boy, there must be something in the air tonight. All right,
It's blurry.
thank you. Mr. Brenner, are you in the office, audience?
How's everybody doing?
Good evening. Please state your name and address.
My name's Nicholas Brenner. I currently live in Madisonville. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of this piece of property.
Okay. Tell us why you're wanting to go to the rural overlay.
I'm wanting to go to the rural overlay to complete an existing structure for personal use.
Okay. Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this?
Opposition.
Have to
All right.
agree with the staff's second recommendation.
All right, have you filled out a speaker card?
No, sir.
Okay, please do. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, the structure is on there. I'll make a motion to approve the rural overlay.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon, seconded by Mr. Willie. Mr. Davis?
Mr. Nicholas, you planning on having horses back there?
Horses?
Horses?
No, sir.
What are your plans for the rural overlay?
Just personal use. Store a tractor, lawnmowers, just store stuff in the building.
And they would
A
need, you
barn.
would need to have that for a rural overlay for the size of the, so it's for the size of the,
It's for a barn.
gotcha, okay, thank you.
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item is item 12. Zoning case 14-10-095, existing zoning's A1 Suburban District, the proposed zoning's A2 Suburban District, and a manufactured housing overlay. It's 10.35 acres. The petitioner's Susanna P. Kerr, owner's succession of Sheldon Simon Prevost and Judith Flash Prevost, parcel located on the west side of Bunny Lane, south of Joyner Weimer Road, Ward 1, District 3. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with agricultural and residential uses. Staff does not see any compelling reason to increase the density of the area, considering that the parcel is surrounded on 3 sides by A1 zoned property. However, staff does not have any objections to the request for the mobile home overlay. Staff recommends that the request for A2 designation be denied, but the request for mobile home overlay designation be approved.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Kerr, are you in the audience? So you're going to represent Ms. Kerr?
No. No, John Martin, Goodby Civic Association. Mr. and Mrs. Kerr came to the civic meeting along with their drawings and their information and why they wanted to do this. And we had a discussion on it, and nobody at the civic meeting had any objections to what they were doing. That's all I wanted to say, just to let everybody know that it was, everybody there was fine with what they were doing. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susanna Kerr. We're requesting this rezoning because at the present time we have 10 acres, which was originally purchased by my parents. They have since passed on. My sister and I are the 2 heirs. Right now we have 2 houses, one on the south side of the property, one on the north side of the property. We would like to split the property in half, making 5 acres on the south side, 5.35 acres on the north side. We intend to sell the south side, 5 acres with a house, in order to pay off succession debts. I currently live on the south side. I will be moving next door to my mother's home. And at that point, we would like to divide the 5 acres of that property for the front acreage to be 2.35 and the back acreage to be 3 acres with the mobile home overlay for my sister to live on. From what I understand, from what I see from the staff comments, the general density in our area is A3 and I think A2. We are only bound by A1 on 2 sides. Our neighbor on the south actually only has 2 acres. On the north of us and on the west of us, it is all completely wooded area. They have, since in the last year, built 2 houses across the street, which is designated as A3. They also have houses down the street on Bunny Lane, which are on much smaller parcels than what we're requesting. We've asked our neighbor directly to the south of us if he would have any objection, and he didn't. And I can't imagine any of our other neighbors would have any objection. Basically, we're not increasing the density as it stands right now because, like I said, we're A1 on 2 sides and not 3 sides. Across the street, they're A3. And to the south of us, they're probably A2 or A3 already. And like I said, we need to do this in order to complete the succession, so that way we can pay off debts.
So that you and your sister can divide the property and?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this, either for or against? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Willie.
Yeah, her request is compatible to that immediate area. I move for approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Willie to approve. Ms. Casabon?
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Hines, you second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Now, this is to approve the A2 plus the manufactured housing overlay.
Yes.
Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Old business, item 1, CP07-09-157 PR, use retail facility over 20,000 square feet. Zoning is HC2, Highway Commercial District. Use size is 99,045 square foot. Petitioner Samuel Markovich, Acadian Properties North Shore LLC, and the owner is Samuel Markovich, Acadian Properties North Shore LLC. Parcel located on the west side of Louisiana 21, south of Cherokee Rose Lane, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
A conditional use permit was originally approved for a 88,110 square foot retail shopping center on a subject site. The Louisiana Highway Department informed the owner of the site that the road improvements will be taking place along Highway 21, which will affect most of the 50-foot required buffer and parking setback of the proposed development. Considering that the road improvement will require the state to acquire most of the 50-foot of the property along Highway 21, the petitioner is requesting a waiver of most of the 50-foot required buffer and parking setback to only provide to only provide 10 Class A and 10 Class B trees within the remaining portion of the front landscape buffer. As a result of the taking of the front planting buffer from the OTD, most of the proposed parking lot will then be directly abutting the front property line. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Hank Smith with Harry Baker Smith Architects. Mr. Markovich could not be here this evening. He was called out of the country. So I'm here to represent him. And I think the request is apparent. The DOT took a big hunk of his buffer zone, and he's already got an approved permit to do flat work, and the site plan has been approved. So he considers this a hardship to have to completely redesign the front of his shopping center to accommodate a DOT taking.
Okay, thank you. Yes, anyone else in the audience wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman Doherty. Sandra Slifer, representing the AOA, that we did meet to discuss this project or this proposal, and that the consensus of everyone at the meeting was to support the staff's recommendation to deny this exception to the planned corridor overlay restrictions that most of the landowners in this corridor comply with the regulations. They recognize that the property is, that some of their property was going to be purchased by DOTD for the widening project, and they have still put in the required landscaping and parking buffers that I have heard from one very large developer in the area who urged the AOA to stand firm regarding the request that the petitioner is making, and to ask you to deny this request. There is no project. There are no tenants for this project. You know, it's not as if there is someone who's waiting in the wings, to be located on this site. So we urge you to deny this request. Thank you, and I believe there are some other people who do wish to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, do you have any rebuttal?
My rebuttal is simple. There's an approved project there that had a take for the highway. Consider it this way. If you had an existing building with existing parking and with an existing buffer, and the highway department came in and they took that buffer, trust me, I'm all for vegetation buffers, and I'll encourage my client to do as much as he can with what he has left. But if you consider this an existing building and the highway department comes in and has a taking, then there's nothing you could do about it. I think in this case, the project should be considered as an existing project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sandra, you have any rebuttal?
I think I'll defer to some of the residents if they would like to speak.
I mean, they welcome to
By all
speak.
means.
Dwayne?
Dwayne Mesh, 318 Cherokee Rose, represent the Timber Branch subdivision. And we do, too, oppose this. We wish that there be exclusive study on the drainage issues that Mr. Markovich has already caused on our neighborhood. And we caution you to make sure that there is some extensive studies on the drainage proposed for this. And also, we oppose any variances on the requirements that are required by your present zoning, because we feel, just as she said, that all the others in the area have complied with that, and that we feel that since there has not been any activity there other than large amounts of dirt brought in, that certainly the owner has the opportunity to make some arrangements to meet with what your requirements are. And we also would like to stay in tune, keeping in touch with what the development plans are for that corridor, which have been in place for some time now. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in rebuttal? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Misty Labat. I am a resident of the Timber Branch subdivision. I just would like to let you all know that there's nothing, we have experienced a lot of issues, especially with drainage on this project since 2006. Until today, I did not see a drainage plan. Several of our residents have been negatively impacted by water runoff from this project. The problem was made worse by the increase of fill that was added to this site since 2006. The developer of this he filled the site randomly and did not spread or level the site or do any type of remediation or drainage. Further, he pulled in a mobile home on the site, which was sunk down into the fill for several months, and he left it there. He did not maintain, mow, or care for the site. I feel that the developer should comply with the planned corridor overlay requirements. I ask that all of the required setbacks, green space, and trees be required to remain in place. I respectfully request that no further development be allowed on this site until the drainage issues and problems be resolved and corrected. Our parish has guidelines in place to protect the parish and to maintain the quality of life for our residents. We are negatively impacted at this point, so I wish that you would consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, do you have any further comments?
Yes, I do. With regard to the drainage issues, since the retention pond was taken by the DOT is redesigning the drainage system to handle the runoff of the parking lot with subterranean piping and whatnot. So the engineers in the DOT will be handling that part of it, and that was one of the considerations for the taking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've heard both sides with rebuttal. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a rebuttal to his comment about the highway department. My name is William Spence.
Okay.
I live on
Come on up to the mic so that it gets recorded.
My name is William Spatz. I live on Cherokee Rose Lane, and I attended a meeting with the state DOT, and we discussed at length the issue of drainage, and in particular, the site of Mr. Markovich's property, and what has been done and what will be done, and the highway department will use subsurface drainage, but it's for the roadbed.
it's not for the advantage of the site in question. And the fact is that Mr. Markovich made the site 100% worse than when he started putting fill on it and destroyed the natural drainage that was on the parcel. He has done absolutely nothing to be a good husband to the property, a good neighbor to the subdivision, or a contributing, noteworthy participant in the economy of the parish. And I feel that his word is something that doesn't go very far in our neighborhood, and it didn't go very far in the context that I had with developers and the highway department. But I think that he needs to be held to the rules that were developed to protect the residents of St. Tammany Parish.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've heard both sides now, and we're actually a little bit over on the, yes, ma'am.
My name is Lisa Dunaway. I am one of the residents whose property abuts Mr. Markovich's property. We have been very negatively impacted by his excessive fill and negligence to keep up the water runoff from draining into our properties. And I just wanted to say here tonight that we are also requesting that you deny and that he holds to what is required. We have other neighbors here that are in support, and I wanted you all to know that they are here tonight. They all feel the same way.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna close the floor to the public. Mr. Davis.
Yes, to the gentleman representing Mr. Markovich, and to staff as well. I recall approving this conditional use permit 6.5 years ago. There hasn't been any work done, basically, on this property, correct? Except for Phil.
An application form has been submitted for land clearing and for flat work, and there's been fill added, but there's no building constructed on the site
Right.
at this time.
I try to look at it from this point of view. If we try to give a conditional use permit to build a road 6.5 years ago, and all of a sudden it would come back up and they finally decide to build a road, it would have to be built to the standards that we have existing today, correct?
Correct.
So with that being said, I'll make a motion to deny this conditional use permit and agree with the staff's
I'll
recommendation.
second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Davis to deny, seconded by Ms. Casabon.
But I have a question with staff.
Okay,
Helen, when it says that the drainage plan, I'm more concerned about drainage right now. The original proposed drainage ponds were provided for the green space. And now they have, who has approved these for subsurface? Is that what I'm understanding because of the state,
But the subsurface
says-
drainage plan that is now proposed is from his engineer. I don't know if Mr. Paul Carroll, our drainage engineer, has reviewed it or not.
So.
But this
we're
is what
like-
he's proposing.
So something needs to be, our engineers need to be sent out there now to see if there is anything they can do either to get that dirt out, because anytime the water can't go around it if it's still piles of dirt there, or it's not, if they're not working on it. Something needs to be done.
Code
If we
enforcement.
issued a permit for flat work,
Code enforcement has been involved for quite some time.
okay, well,
yeah, that,
all right. So for the denial, until some of this is done and relieved and we see
Ms.
something.
Ms. Lambert indicated code enforcement has been out there
Okay.
and apparently some citations have been issued. All right, Mr. Willie?
Yes, I have two questions. Helen, I guess. Is there a time limit on you could start a conditional use permit venture?
He's already started. It's been determined that
clearings-
by applying for a flat work permit, it's been determined that he
Okay,
started.
so that got him under the wire as far as the project. And I guess my second question is of legal counsel. What's our stance on it legally, as far as being an approved project already? And then-
Well, I'm going to go back and revisit the issue about the conditional use permit. For a conditional use permit to have existed for 6.5 years seems pretty extensive. Now, even any permit that's given, usually you have 1 year from the date that the permit is issued, in order to complete the work. And if you don't, the permit lapses. If that permit lapsed, then there was no permit on the project. It is possible that his conditional use permit has lapsed. And I will
Unless-
investigate that.
They would,
We-
but they come
That's
before
correct,
us for
and
2
they did
years,
not.
and I haven't
The
seen
building
anything
permit
like
was extended.
The building
The
or the
building permit?
conditional use?
The permit for the flat work permit was extended.
And what is the date on that?
I don't have the date here with
I'll
me.
pull that file and check it out.
Please do so.
But I guess my other part of that question is also the point that it was an approved project. Do we have to treat that as like an existing building?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And just on that point too, if this is denied, then it would meet all the regulations that we have in place now for when Mr. Markovich has to change his design of the building. And we meet all the flood, requirements and all the
Drainage requirements
TIAs
and
or
everything
whatever,
else.
Anyway.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to deny conditional use permit CP 07-09-1557 PR. Please vote. Motion carries to deny. Thank you. All right, do we have any new business?
Mr. Chairman,
Willie.
are we meeting, we're not meeting next Tuesday of November, are we? It's gonna be on Wednesdays. Is that election day? Or what?
Yes, sir. It will be Wednesday,
Say-
November 5th.
Okay, just a reminder. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I do have some new business.
Mr. Davis?
I'd like to recognize a new young lady who's working on our staff today. Would you please stand up and, yes, please stand up and say your name in the speaker and.
Why don't you introduce you?
My name is Rayma Tobler.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Welcome aboard. All right.
I think I turned red.
She turned red. What was her last name?
something already. A motion to adjourn.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Appreciate it.
There you go, that's fine.
7:34. Okay.